Hello, Night Nation. Trey Strelko here. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. We are previewing men's basketball at ECU as the AAC tournament gets underway. The latest from baseball and women's basketball in action right now as we speak. And what's your biggest question on defense as spring football camp begins on Monday? Let us welcome in the Sons of UCF, Adam and Mike. I am told they are the future of UCF podcasting and streaming, and they are here. Gentlemen, nice to see you this Wednesday.
Yeah, I got disoriented, Trace. It's Wednesday. Usually we do this on Thursday. I thought tomorrow was Friday. Tomorrow is actually Thursday. I thought the weekend was almost here. It's not. But either way, glad to see you. Glad to see Mike's hand as well as he fixes his camera.
Glad to see Trace is here. I'm a little disappointed he's not on the hammock doing the show live from there. Brilliant walk and talk, or lay and talk, I guess, this week. Good job.
Sway and talk.
Oh, he's not the best in the business for nothing, friends. Look at that.
Following two things as we come on the air, women's basketball is tipping off right now with Houston on ESPN Plus, and baseball looks to be snapping its four-game losing streak, up 6-0 in the eighth at North Florida, your neck of the woods, Adam. Pablo Ruiz, a two-run homer. Josh Crouch, a two-run homer. And Kenny Surwa, off of injury, getting his first pitching performance of the year. So perhaps the Knights are back in the win column, 3-8. This could be the fourth if they can close things out up in your neck of the woods. But big story today, we couldn't do a show without some breaking news. Terry, we hardly knew ya. Reports indicating, or rumors really, that with Kansas firing its athletic director, a name being bandied about is one Terry Mohajir, who has previous stints at Kansas. Dennis Dodd says that Mohajir's dream job is KU, but would have to make a decision after hiring Gus. And Bruce Feldman saying the Kansas native who has worked at KU in two different stints, this could be a good hire for Kansas, but he just took the UCF job. Will we be looking for a new AD after just about a month or so, guys?
Head scratcher for me. So I want to take off my UCF hat for a second. I'm actually not going to do that because my hair does not look good tonight. But I mean, I don't know if this is hyperbole. UCF is a better job than Kansas. I feel like I can say that confidently. Obviously, their football program has been nothing short of a dumpster fire. Their basketball program certainly has historically been a really strong program. I think there's some sanctions potentially coming their way. I know Bill Self, their head coach, has been in some conversations with the Adidas scandal that broke a couple summers ago. I understand it's a quote unquote Power 5 job, but to me, this is one of those lower rung Power 5 jobs. And if you're from Kansas and that's your home, I guess it maybe has an alert to you. But I would be shocked if Terry Mohajir looked at both situations and said, "Oh my goodness, Kansas is a much better spot for me." The only outlier here would be financial. If Kansas can offer him something way more substantial in the wallet paycheck side of the business, then maybe you think about it. But I would be shocked if he looked at both these jobs objectively and said, "I can't wait to get to Kansas." That would surprise me.
You know, this is news to me. I saw the headline in the dungeon. I didn't even click on it because I didn't even bother before this show started. You're telling me this is a serious question. Maybe Mohajir's gone after a month. I'm in shock if that's true. But Kansas, like Adam was saying, who wants to go to Kansas? I mean, I guess he's from there. But other than that, what other reason has anybody ever wanted to go to Kansas? I don't get it. So money would be the thing. If they throw a bunch of money on, do we get a buyout? So if that's the case, then we can still get another good AD. I mean, Terry's only been here for a couple of weeks. I'm not that attached to him.
You're just week to week, aren't you? You love them, and now it's time to.
There was a buyout. I don't know where we are with the contract. To borrow a dungeon phrase, is the ink dry? I don't know where we are with the contract. The only good news you would have, I guess, is that you just went through a search. So whoever came in number 2 on that list, you just call that guy up and go, "Hey, great news! Things have opened up. Now you have a head football coach, by the way. So half the battle's done for you." I would be surprised. Well, I don't want to say surprised because in college athletics, nothing really shocks you. But if Terry Mohajir looks at both those two schools objectively and says, "Oh my goodness, Kansas is much better," then maybe his judgment isn't what I thought it was to begin with. Unless you're going to throw a lot of money at him, or unless there's some really deep family ties that call him back to the I don't even know. Is that the Plains in Kansas? I'm not sure what we call that. If there's something that doesn't tie him back to that, I would be floored if he looked at those two objectively and said, I got to go to Kansas.
Well, he does have ties there, and I don't think for a Kansas in the Big 12 that money would be any object. So if it is a money issue, UCF's not going to win a bidding war, right? Kansas can throw all sorts of money. Is he like Danny White in that he wants a project? It would certainly be a project turning Kansas football around. It's mired in a mess, and as you mentioned with the Les Miles departure now, things don't look good in Kansas. But he has ties there, so it may be a job that appeals to him.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Who are you going to get to be your head coach right now? I mean, we were in a struggle because of the cycle we were in, right? A lot of coaches had already made decisions, and we were trying to pluck guys from other schools. We got kind of lucky that that Malzahn was available. Kansas would have to go the coordinator route. I can't imagine a sitting Power 5 coach is going to. If you ranked the Power 5 schools, I'd be curious. I mean, I don't have the time in the show unless we want to do this tonight, where Kansas would fall in terms of all the power. They've got to be towards like the bottom 5 in terms of Power 5 schools. I can't imagine you're going to get anybody to jump to that unless you get a group of 5 coach there. Again, I would be shocked if Terry stays. Luckily, Mario has a great idea. Mike, we've got plenty of hats to go around. Maybe we give Terry a hat if he stays, but I would be shocked if he goes, because I just can't imagine you look at these two schools objectively and say, everything he's already built here, the positive momentum he's had at UCF in just a short amount of time with the Malzahn hire, with everything that's kind of taking place now, that he would look at and go, you know what, Kansas is for me. I would be floored, but I guess, never be surprised, right?
If he leaves after only a month on campus, does he become one of the biggest villains in UCF history? Like, UCF fans will never forgive him for this. He'll be a punchline forever, I think.
Well, because he hired Malzahn, right? So if Malzahn comes out to be like the world's best coach and he becomes someone who helps UCF get to greater heights, then the ends justify the means for us, right? Like, we had him for a month. He had a connection to Malzahn. He got Malzahn here and he leaves. If Malzahn turns out to be great, then, maybe the ends justify the means on that one. And maybe another AD couldn't get Malzahn in. The relationship with Mohajir was the difference. But, I mean, we won't know until we see Malzahn put a team on the field, unfortunately.
I have a name for you that might be an interesting coaching candidate in Kansas. What's Randy Shannon up to? It wouldn't be bad for us to get a little more buyout money, huh? Kansas could throw a little buyout money our way for Randy, and they take Timo. It all seems highly unlikely, but we weren't talking Terry Mohajir when the AD search began, and we weren't talking Gus Malzahn either. So who's to say? Who knows? Certainly an interesting break in some speculation on a Wednesday afternoon, and that proves timely for us. Baseball now up 9-0, top of the 8th. So looking like they may be able to close this one out and get a win. Basketball up 4-2 in the early going. Women's basketball looking to advance to play the Cows in the AAC championship game on Thursday. So those two developments we will continue to watch. It's men's basketball that is the reason we are on Wednesday night instead of Thursday. The men facing ECU Thursday night. They faced them last Thursday. They swept the series with them. UCF now 8-10 in the AC, 10-11 overall. You got to like their chances against ECU, and winner of this game would move on to face number 3 seed Memphis Friday at 10 o'clock. But you got to get the first one. I think UCF is playing its best basketball right now down the stretch.
Yeah, obviously 2-0 against ECU. Now, I will say it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season. It's certainly not an easy feat, but 2-0 against ECU with our last victory coming in against ECU, shorthanded without CJ Walker, Brandon Mahan. I agree with you, Trace. This is the best UCF has played. Isaiah Adams, I think, has really taken his game to another level these last, 2, 3, 4 ball games. He was the freshman of the week. I think he got named to the all freshman team, or maybe the second team for the AAC this year. So if he can continue that stretch, CJ Walker was just coming into form and finding some semblance of an offensive game. Darius Perry seems to be able to hit shots when you need shots to be hit. We were getting some timely defense and rebounding. Darren Green, I think, had really kind of found his stroke a little bit in that ECU game. So this was our best basketball, and you got to think that hopefully UCF's going in with confidence, because this is a house money tournament, right? There's nothing to lose for these guys. And if they can get in there and play well against ECU and keep the game close with our free throw shooting, which has been, fairly good down the stretch, offensive execution, I think they have a really good shot to at least get to the second round against Memphis, and then it's anyone's ball game. Obviously, Memphis had our number. I mean, they pretty much, half court pressed us off of the floor last time we met them, the last 2 times we met them. So that'll be a tough challenge, but you got to like your chances against an ECU team, particularly if UCF can keep the momentum they've had and get everybody back. It looked like CJ Walker traveled. I saw him in the pictures. Johnny Dawkins, Trace, I know you were probably on Zoom calls with him. It sounds like he expected both Mahan and Walker to be available against ECU. So if you get a full squad with the momentum they've had and sort of that house money mentality, I mean, let's have some fun, right? It's March. Stranger things have happened.
The one thing early in the year that killed us in a lot of games was the turnovers. Cleaning that up lately has helped big time, playing a lot cleaner game. And now you're saying that Mahan and Walker are going to be back for this one. That's a big help over the last time we saw these guys just a week ago. I'm fully confident we can beat East Carolina. It's the Memphis game. I don't want to look ahead, but the Memphis game is going to be the tough one.
Well, let's dig into this game a little bit more with a gentleman that covers men's basketball and UCF sports. He is Brian Murphy. You will find him at _Murphy. Writes for the Black and Gold Banneret. Brian, thanks for joining us on the Sons of UCF Live. The big news this week, Johnny Dawkins saying that both CJ Walker and Brandon Mahan expected to play Thursday. The whole roster, boy, imagine that.
Yeah, it'd be great. I think you saw the impact of not having CJ Walker, certainly in the game against ECU, even the game against Tulsa, where UCF really needed some rebounds and couldn't come up with them. Having CJ Walker back really helps. Hopefully, there's been a lot of question about whether or not he's 100%. I've heard a lot about how he's probably not going to be 100% for this game. So we'll see if they manage his minutes. But just having him out there on the boards is a big thing for this team, which in the last couple of games has really struggled on the glass without him. And obviously Mahan, his scoring is fantastic. But I think Walker's is the bigger get.
Brian, how big has Darius Perry been for the Knights this season? Obviously, he was a name. He came from Louisville, so he had some experience. But I don't know if we knew what we were getting in Darius Perry. He's proven to be a scorer when we need a key bucket. And obviously, he's a senior leader. He's someone who's got experience. How big of an impact do you think Darius has had on the Knights this season?
Gigantic, almost immeasurable when you consider that he's really the team's only point guard, right? Tony Johnson, goes down with this really freak ankle injury at the half of the first game of the year. That really leaves UCF with only one point guard. I know they've run Dre Fuller Jr. out at the point, but he's not that guy. So they needed Darius to right this ship, bring the senior leadership, organize the offense, and score and make plays. And he's done that. He's done all of that. He was a good three-point shooter coming in, but he's been better than I expected for this team. I mean, and making big shots. I mean, a guy who kind of has like that cold-blooded sense of mentality, that cold-blooded mentality late in games. When if you need a big basket, he'll give it to you. But also, he is a steadying presence for this team. He missed a few games in the middle of the year, right when this team was hitting its nadir, and him not being out there, the impact was obvious. I mean, they're a completely different team with him on the floor on both ends of the court too, because he's a really good on-ball defender, gets a lot of steals as well.
We started off this season hot. We beat Auburn to start the year. We have a big win at Florida State. And then we have that lull in the middle where we're going out losing streak. And now I've picked it up here at the end. If you had to grade the regular season overall, what would you give the team?
So the fans probably are disappointed because the expectations shot through the roof after the Florida State win. So you'd look at where they ended up and be like, well, it's probably a C grade. But look what this team has done with the guys they have. A lot of young players, freshmen, Darius transferring in. I know he's a senior, but he's still a first-year guy for this program. They brought a lot of new players together to play at once. And after the COVID pause, where this team really tanked and could have stayed down, I think it was encouraging to see that they've played really their best basketball in these last 8 games, going 6-2 with 2 one-point losses to Wichita State, the conference champion. I would say this season has been probably a B, not only because of how they've rebounded from the middle part of the year, but also like you can see in the likes of Isaiah Adams and CJ Walker and the younger players, the future of this program is pretty bright.
AAC announcing today third-team all-conference selections in Brandon Mahan and Darius Perry, but all-freshman team, you just mentioned him, Isaiah Adams, has certainly lived up to his nickname, Mr. Basketball.
It's been outstanding, and his game is evolving before our eyes, guys. I mean, you know, he was obviously so good against FSU, and then I think we expected, much like this team, we expected a little bit maybe too much too soon, and we still had to realize, like, in this really weird year, where none of the freshmen were on campus over the summer to work out and get acclimated and all that stuff, you know, he was going to have some ups and downs, and he certainly has. But man, oh man, the last 4 games, he's just been outstanding, inside, outside scoring. He's 13 for 22 from deep in his last 4 games. Before that, he was 7 for 35. Now, he has talked about how that was due to a bit of a mechanics change, holding his release a little longer on his 3-point shot. But I think it's just kind of a natural evolution of a player more than anything. And again, it's why the future looks pretty bright for this program, because of guys like him and the way that he has sort of ascended as the season's gone on. It's been impressive to watch.
Brian, if you polled Knight fans before the season started, I think most people would probably have said that Darren Green Jr. would have been our best player this season. How would you assess the year that Darren's had for the Knights?
It's weird, right? Like, I was looking at it today and like looking at it through this season, like because Darren set the bar so high for him last year, you know, hitting the school record for threes as a freshman. You go into like this year and you look at it like, and you feel like if you watch game by game, you go, well, he's really not having a great year. He's hitting 37% from 3. That's his job. I mean, that is what he is. Like, he's a great shooter. That's what he does. He shoots. I know people want him to be more, and he wants to do more things on the floor and be more versatile. But right now, he's a shooter. And for him to be a 37% 3-point shooter, and for us to think, I think if you polled most fans, they would say he hasn't had a good year. It's kind of crazy that we've gotten there. But that's the standard he set for himself. I know, again, it hasn't been a great year for him. It's been streaky, as with most shooters. But because last year was so magnificent, I think we need to sort of grade this year on a curve. Plus, with COVID and all that stuff, everything's very different. To say, like, on a bad year, he shoots 37%, like, yeah, I kind of take that.
The great thing about college basketball, starting now in March, everybody's starting fresh. Everybody's got a shot. Handicap for us our chances of getting through this tournament. What do you think? Any chance of us pulling it out and going on a run here?
Any chance?
I mean, look. So, guys, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this team has made only one conference tournament semifinal since winning the A-Sun in 05. So, like, there's just never been a good conference tournament team for whatever reason, with different coaches and different players and different conferences. It just never has clicked in the stretch. Even when the tournament team in 18-19 got waxed by Memphis, which feels like a preview. Look, like I say, I'm not concerned about ECU. If you handle Jaden Gardner and his inside game, you've got a pretty good chance there. But man, it's Memphis. I mean, it's your nightmare. They press so well against UCF. The Knights have a really difficult time out of that, and we've seen that in the 2 games. Obviously, Memphis this year, 49 turnovers in those 2 games, and since then they've been much better. But against that press, it's really difficult to handle. And then you've got, you know, Musa Cisse down low, you know, Boogie Ellis and DJ Jeffries. It's a really good team. I would be anything can happen because you can always hit shots, right? And you can hit shots, and if you don't turn the ball over and you rebound the ball well, like, anything can happen in tournament basketball. I would be absolutely shocked if they win, and I would be actually surprised if they lose by single digits against Memphis.
Would you be surprised if they were to lose to ECU? They swept the season series. They jumped out to a big lead on ECU last Thursday. ECU coming off of more than 3 weeks without having played a game, but ECU closed it, got close there at the end. And UCF has a penchant for turning the ball over as a great equalizer in games.
Yeah, but I think you've seen the ball control be so much better in these last 8 games, right? So I want to keep harping on this. I think in the first 13 games this season, their assist to turnover margin was minus 65. And I believe in the last 8, it's been plus 11. Like, it's just a completely different ball control team because of Darius Perry and guys who I think have gotten back into a rhythm after the COVID pause, certainly. I thought at the end of the ECU game, without CJ Walker, again, not being able to get some rebounds hurt, they have had some games recently where they have not done a great job on the boards, UCF. With Walker back in there, I think that changes. I don't expect this to be, a really tight game. It'll be a close game, obviously, because tournament basketball, it usually is. But UCF is favored by 6, which I would say is a pretty liberal spread by the people out in Vegas.
Brian, we've seen sort of an increased production from Avery Diggs, which probably wasn't something most people counted on. The simplest way I can ask this is, can he keep that up? Do you think that's possible? He can sustain that production?
So I wrote this on Twitter when this happened. Guys, you remember, it's like one of the plays of the year now. Avery Diggs had a baseline spin move and then went reverse layup. And I literally just went I just threw my hat on the ground. I was like, this is so stupid. I can't believe what I just saw. I was like Jack Buck in the '88 World Series. I cannot believe what I just saw. No, I mean, he is good for stretches. My hair is awful. He is good for stretches of 5 minutes of energy when you need to get guys from rest. But in those short spurts, he's done good work. I mean, he's battled for rebounds. Yeah, he's he doesn't really know how to play a lot without fouling. It's sort of his thing. He's not quick enough to stay with the better big men in the league. He'll hit a couple of outside 15-foot jumpers, which is nice. Get a couple boards, but that's all you really want. You really want him to only play 10 minutes and leave you in no worse shape than he started in. So, and I think he's done that. So no, it's not. He's not going to be a huge X factor, but you don't need him to be. You just need him to be stable.
If we're going to switch to baseball for a second, because I know you're a big baseball guy, the baseball team had high expectations coming into this year. Obviously, off to a slow start. I was comparing them to the '98 Yankees a couple of weeks ago. I've given up on that. Can we at least be like the 2019 Nationals, who got off to a terrible start and ended up winning the World Series?
No, because they're not going to win the College World Series. But I understand your point. I know. So I wasn't able to really follow tonight's game against North Florida because I was busy. But I know they were up 6-0 in the 7th. They had rebounded tonight. 10-0.
10-0. Top 9.
So yeah, and so Kenny Surwa pitched tonight, and I saw he put up a couple of zeros. That's huge. Pablo Ruiz hit a home run tonight. That's big too. He was so good last year as a freshman. I think he's off to a slow start because he was hurt at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to overrate 12 games. This team has definite flaws. This bullpen is thin. There's not a lot of guys I think Greg Lovelady trusts outside of maybe 4 or 5 guys in the bullpen, and some of those guys are kind of wobbly right now. Jackson Clare, I think, at the top of that list. This lineup is very good, but it needs to make more contact. Coming into tonight's game, the team strikeout rate was 30%. That's untenable. The series against this past weekend against Liberty, they had 37 Ks in 3 games, and 16 of those 37 Ks were looking. And certainly, Liberty threw some great pitchers out there. I honest to God, Liberty's pitchers are legit, but it just seemed like UCF wasn't picking things up. They couldn't read the ball. It was a lost weekend. And so I think this team is very good. It's got flaws. It's still very good. I don't think the Mississippi weekend was a fluke. I am more interested to see how the pitching staff evolves when we go into a 4-game conference series weekend, because that's what we're going to have this weekend. You're going to have 4-game series on the weekends against conference. And I think their rotation is really good with Colton Gordon and Hunter Patterson, A.J. Jones. I wonder if one of those guys falter early. Let's say Colton has a bad start on a Friday night, and you need guys out of the bullpen to cover that. How does that affect you later on in the weekend, when right now this team really only has maybe 4 at 5 most reliable relievers? I'm concerned about that. I'm not concerned about the offense. I think they'll score enough. And I like the starting rotation. That bullpen does concern me.
let us wrap up back on basketball. No matter what may happen Thursday against ECU or further in the conference tournament, this has been a COVID year with a lot of disruptions. You'd have to say the future is bright for this cast of characters on Johnny Dawkins' squad.
I feel like I've said it twice. I appreciate you listening, Trace. And it's just, I know he loves it when I dig him. It absolutely is. I wonder, CJ Walker has a lot of pro potential, but his offensive game, while coming along, isn't there yet. There's always whispers as a 5-star recruit, like how early would he leave? But I don't see him leaving now. But with both him and Isaiah, Jameel Reynolds, who has had his good games here and there down low. Dre Fuller's only a redshirt sophomore. Darren Green only a sophomore. There's a lot of young players here back for next year. They're gonna have to establish a new point guard. I know they've got the recruit coming in. I think his name is Darius Johnson, who's got a lot of pub as a point guard. But between him and Tony Johnson, they're gonna need to figure something out there because you will not have any other experienced point guard. And then Brandon Mahan, apparently, is he going to come back or not? He didn't walk in senior day. Johnny Dawkins was very coy when asked about that later after the Tulsa game, saying they'll talk about it after the year. But if Brandon Mahan comes back along with all those other guys, next year should be great. It really should be, barring good health and not another global pandemic.
Hey, Murph,
So
I got one more quick.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Bryce.
Down again. Sorry.
Luminescent, really.
Murph, I got one more quick one for you. Finish this sentence for me. If Terry Mohadra goes to Kansas, I will blank.
Don't. I'm sorry. I don't have a word for that because I'm not even going to entertain the question because let's not do this to ourselves. Let's not have panic attacks on Twitter. All right, everything just breathe. Just do a little Zen, little alms, and just everything will be fine. You'll be fine. Okay, don't worry about this, guys. By the way, Kansas is just basketball. The football program, the football program right now, and for the longest time has been trash. Basketball is facing numerous violations, and the hammer will come down at some point by the NCAA. I don't know when it will, but it'll come down at some point. It's not a great job. But I'm not. Again, I'm now too far into the rabbit hole there. I don't even want to entertain it because it's such a non-story for me. People are freaking out right now because of people out there are trying to connect dots. It's wasted energy. Just don't do it to yourself.
I think his hat's in trouble if Mohadra leaves.
It's a what now?
Your hat is gonna go flying. I think maybe out the window.
Yes, that's right. I got so more many. I'm like the James Bond villain. I just throw hats at people and.
He is Brian Murphy, black and gold banneret. You can find him at @spokes_Murphy. Always entertaining. Brian, thanks for joining us for this week's Sons of UCF Live.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, that's good stuff. Baseball now, bottom of the ninth, up 10-0 on North Florida, and we are in the second quarter. Women's basketball up 16-8. The number 2 seeded Knights defeated number 8 seed Cincinnati 53-43 last night. 15-3 overall now. Not bad for women's basketball. You think with the Cows beating Tulane that it looking
barely though, Chase.
Yeah,
I mean that they squeaked that one out. They were down for a while.
Looking more and more like with UCF been a bubble team that they might just make it. I'll tell you what, she has just done a tremendous job, Coach Abe, coaching this team. They are stifling on defense, and they're playing good basketball again for Coach Abe. So might have an NCAA tournament team. I saw the question scroll across. I believe it was Phil asking, could the NIT be in UCF men's basketball future? I don't know. Are they gonna even finish above 500? And with the way this COVID year has been, is it something you want to go through again? Another round of COVID testing and all that's been involved in that. A lot of these teams are just glad that they got through the games that they have. So I don't think the UCF will put itself in that position. So, they might get the win against ECU to go to 11-11, but then if you can't get past Memphis, Memphis, a late start, 10 o'clock on Friday if UCF can advance. And those have not been pretty. Those back-to-back 2-day apart games earlier with UCF at Memphis.
Yeah, two thoughts. And let me go back to the women's team for a second. Could there be anything better than this scenario? Knights, Cows for the championship. That would be a fantastic setup for the women's hoops team. Obviously, getting revenge on the Cows, who essentially won the regular season title. So Knights, Cows for a championship. If you're a Knights fan, if you're a UCF person, there's probably no better scenario than that. And then for the NIT, I mean, is there even going to be an NIT? I don't know if that's official. I haven't done a lot of research on that. So will they even hold a tournament? The only thing you could potentially see, Trace, is if they decide to bubble it. So I know the NCAA tournament's bubbling itself essentially in that greater Indianapolis area. If for some reason the NIT wants to bubble and they said let's bubble in Orlando, sort of NBA bubble style, maybe UCF makes some sense. If other teams drop out, we're close enough by. But I don't think it's an organic fit for UCF to get to the NIT. I don't think they've got the resume right now. But it's a COVID year. Stranger things could happen. So I guess leave open that door a crack. But I think you'd have to have a really unique situation for UCF to be an NIT team.
The women are our best sports are in women's sports now. With women's basketball and softball being way better than baseball, maybe we should revamp our whole show because we don't cover women's sports as much. And how come the women basketball play quarters while men play halves? Any answers for that? Any reasoning?
To be different.
Trace, you know this one?
Okay. To be different, to stand out. The Mike question of the week that no one was expecting. I think it's just to draw a distinction between the women's game and the men's game. I like the quarters, to be honest with you.
Well, the men's basketball is the only one that only does halves, right? Is that NBA, high school, everybody else does quarters. So maybe I should ask, why does the men only play halves? I don't get it.
8 minutes left, second quarter, UCF leading 18-8, have only given up 8 points to Houston through a quarter and a half or thereabouts.
According to winninghoops.com, the NCAA Women's Basketball Rules Committee recommended the change because they believe that 4 quarters format will enhance the flow of the game.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Works for me. So the Mohajer speculation notwithstanding, it's full steam ahead for football. Monday to begin spring camp, the first under new head coach Gus Malzahn. And the question we debated last week was, what is your biggest question on offense? This week we talk about what's your biggest question on defense. I'll begin. Who fills Richie Grant's shoes?
I'd love to know as well. I mean, I think you saw Derek Gaines step in a little bit last year. Can he be that guy? We don't yet really know what we have in Devad Wilson, Jaden Francois. Are they corners? Are they safeties? Obviously, they have some experience, although Francois, I guess, hasn't really technically played a college game, so maybe I should retract that statement, but they definitely have pedigree that follows them. And that'll be an interesting question. Does Gus and do T-Will dip into the portal and maybe try to find an experienced safety to help spring these young guys along? That is going to be a really interesting battle because obviously, we saw how the safety position struggled in the Boca Bowl without Collier, who hadn't been around for a while, without A-Rob, and without Richie Grant. So you're going to have some young guys have to step in. Maybe that's a Devad Wilson spot. I don't know that we know his best position. I don't know that we saw enough of him last year to be able to tell what kind of player he projects to be. Same with Francois. I know a couple of young guys coming in. Does anybody switch back from a corner position? That will certainly be an interesting conversation if we get any material out of the upcoming spring practice.
Yeah, the entire secondary is up for grabs in my mind. We saw the way they played at the end of the season, and like Adam was just saying, we talked to Brendan Alexander a couple of weeks ago, and he was originally a cornerback, got moved to safety. So that stuff happens all the time. It could be anybody on this roster, or who knows if Gus is even done picking up transfers, or there's still yet to be determined on that.
Some of the comments that came in when I asked that question on Twitter at Florida Tech U, safety, big shoes to fill. At the Body to You, how they plan to bolster and scheme for the front seven. And at UCF Realist, all sorts of questions on the mind of at UCF Realist. Our lack of talent, speed on defense was evident. The last couple of games were brutal. No pass rush, too many chunk plays, no linebacker speed, missed tackles, broken coverages. I'm guessing a total revamp of our D. Does that sum
Yeah,
up? The
yeah. Other than that,
experience?
how was the play? Yeah, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? I think for me, it's the linebacker spot, right? I think we've typically had that one sort of key linebacker that's kind of led the charge for us. Last year, I think we all hoped that would be Eric Gilliard. I think he had a fair season, but I don't know that it's a hot take to say he hasn't really progressed. I think at the level we wanted him to. Eric Mitchell obviously found his way off the team, and really mid-season, we saw some improvement in Bethune, and we saw some improvement in John Baptiste. Can they continue that ascent? Do any of the freshmen and the young guys we brought in, do they have the ability? If that's Joyce, if that's Mosier, I think the linebacker spot. Who's our best linebacker? I'm open to that answer, and I think they're all solid. But I think UCF's always had that one guy. If it was Shaquem, if it was Jasinski, if it was Titus Davis for a while, if it was Tito Rodriguez, if it was if it was Troy Davis, anybody. I don't know who that guy is for us right now at the linebacker spot. Who's dynamic? Who's making plays? And particularly with teams nowadays that have running quarterbacks, having that middle linebacker or that linebacker that can spy the quarterback and run him down in the open field and make open field tackles, that's a big part of the game right now with the wide open offense. Who's that person for us? Who's that guy for us? I don't have that answer. I'm curious to see if that shakes out as spring camp opens up.
I'm interested in the defensive line. The guys up front, everything starts there, and that's going to help the secondary. If they can get pressure on the quarterback, when was the last time we had a dominant guy getting sacks? Now we added the big cat, and we've been waiting on Trayvon Morris-Brash for the last couple of years to explode on the scene. Didn't really have that huge year this year. You pair him with the big cat on the other side this year, maybe this is his time to break out. We saw guys on the line like Seliscar last year have probably the best debut we've seen since Bruce Miller, and then kind of tail off the rest of the season. So if the guys on the defensive line can pick things up, that helps guys on the linebackers and the secondary.
Our interviews and media availabilities with the new assistant coaches have continued this week. Wraps up Thursday with wide receiver coach Darrell Wyatt. We remember him. He was with UCF, then gone for a stretch and back again. Today, the availability was with Kenny Ingram, the defensive ends rush coach. UCF has had a hiccup with the upload of the Zoom, so we don't have the sound of portions of that interview. But interestingly enough, he played with Terry Mohadjer at Arkansas State in addition to working for him. So he has a great deal of familiarity with UCF's current athletic director. And we also spoke with Kenny Martin. He was yesterday the defensive tackles coach. He was very interesting, and they're talking about the way they are dividing up the coaching responsibilities. As I mentioned, Kenny Ingram, defensive ends, and the rush coach, Kenny Martin, defensive tackles, and he talked a little bit about why they've split things up that way.
Well, to split the defensive line is phenomenal for the guys. Get more position-specific drills, get more position-specific game plan-wise, because, again, being on the edge and being inside are two different worlds. To be inside, you got to be able to take on the double teams. You got to be able to be stout and strong inside. Being able to create a pass rush from the interior, learning the depth of the pass rush in the pocket. Defensive end-wise, you have to learn a different kind of pass rush, rushing the edges, being able to control the width of the pass rush pocket. So just being able to work with Coach Ingram. First of all, Coach Ingram's a great coach, and I can't wait to work with him and learn up under him. And us meshing together and bringing those two, I think we'll have a special unit. But it all starts with Coach T. Will and allowing us to let the dogs loose. So I already know he will.
Yeah, you gotta let the dogs out. So listen, for me, that is refreshing because I feel like we spent the last 2-3 years just hearing cliches and hearing, who's going to compete and we're going to be multiple. We're going to get after the quarterback. He gave me some really specific stuff there. I thought it was interesting that he delineated the breakdown between it's different to be a D tackle than a D end. It's not rocket science, but I like that he's acknowledging that and that he's talking about how they're going to coach that differently with a mindset of how do we get guys to the quarterback. So whether or not that's coach speak, whether or not that'll manifest itself on the field, I have no idea. But I appreciate the fact that we're hearing something different and that we kind of get a sense for maybe where the coaches' minds are at. To me, that's a refreshing piece of sound to understand that they are thinking about coaching points and how this will work out for the entire D-line.
I'd like to be the first to congratulate Kenny Ingram for being named head coach of Kansas football when he goes with Mohadjer in just another couple days. So congratulations, coach. But Yeah, like I just talked about how the defensive line is the key to the defense, and now these guys are in charge of it, and they seem to be energetic guys, young guys that are our guys can relate to. So it's going to be exciting to see what they can do in the spring.
Each coach has been asked by me or someone what they hope to accomplish during spring camp, and it's been interesting that they've all said that they intend to keep things very simple. Very simple is their approach. So I found that to be interesting that they have all echoed that. We earlier in the week spoke with Addison Williams. He's the new cornerbacks coach, and he got right to it about what he expects to accomplish during spring camp with his
getting better fundamentally.
Yeah.
And that's at each position, but also just creating that mentality of being physical and flying around to the football. That's the biggest thing that we want to get accomplished, because if we can get guys fundamentally better and playing fast, flying around, being physical, the schematics will take care of themselves.
And the cliches are back. Yeah. So that lasted a whole interview. Obviously, we just talked about it. The secondary in particular, the cornerbacks. We had a lot of young corners last year. This is a really young, impressionable, really, hopefully coachable group. And the defense will be as good as these guys can be on the edges, particularly, right? So we saw some flashes of good play, and then we saw some things like the Boca Bowl where we were not able to keep up with receivers. So if anybody has a really interesting role, it will be Addison Williams, because he's got a young, unproven group. Can he continue to develop these kids? Can we find 1, 2, 3 guys that we can rely on, particularly on the outside edges? That's going to be a big key. Hopefully, he's got the same kind of coaching chops as he has cliche chops.
We've often said on the show, we are DBU. We've put more people in the NFL from the defensive back positions, I think, than any other position on the football field. And we saw a lot of young guys play together. We've seen young groups of secondaries develop together in the past before. The group that comes to my mind is the Joe Burnett with John L. Neal and Jason Benson and Sharif Rashad. Those guys grew together. They all came in as freshmen. And, yeah, they had some struggles early on, but then you see them grow year by year. Hopefully this group is something similar.
One of the questions, going back to Coach Ingram, it was the last question that I asked him, what was the reaction and reception of players to the changes on defense, the changes in coaches? And he said that they've all been very focused on what they can do to improve and be better. So any lingering loyalties to previous coaches? So far, at least these guys, these new coaches say everybody's looking forward to the future. So that's positive messaging. I know we've talked about the start of spring camp coming on Monday. Not certain yet what access will be provided. I imagine as COVID continues to be a part of our lives, that there won't be the open practices or video opportunities, and expect more Zooms with coaches. But again, it's an interesting group of coaches that have been assembled. They're a talkative bunch. Yeah, there are going to be some cliches in there. We spoke with Brian Blackman. He's the new special teams and tight ends coach. And I know this is a particular area of focus for Mike, in particular, the special teams, and asked him, what are the keys to success on special teams?
But I do know this, the team that wins field position is going to win the game more times than not. I read a stat the other day that if you win the average starting field position, 75% of the time you win the game. So we got to sell that to our guys. We want to be electric in special teams. And our job is to create field position advantages and make game-changing plays. And it's really that simple.
Electric.
He just sounds like a football coach, doesn't he? He just sounds like, if you closed your eyes and heard that voice, he'd be like football coach in the South. Listen, it's no secret. Special teams, I think, have been an area that Mike and I have been harping on for show after show after show. And it's not even just the fact that, hey, we don't have these big Mike Hughes-esque returns, because perhaps some of that stuff is lightning in a bottle, and the talent of Mike Hughes, I think, probably is a big part of that as well. But it feels like we gave up a lot on special teams. We fair caught a lot. We didn't try to use that side of the game to do anything in terms of making a big play, swinging momentum, doing some of the things that can really help win a ball game. He talks about field position. That's the boring side of football, but it's also the important side of football. I'm always curious, though, and Trace, Mike, you guys can weigh in. when you see a coach who has the dual responsibility thing, right? The special teams and the tight ends, I'm always fascinated by how that schedule breaks down, how much time they really have to devote to both sides. Obviously, UCF had a dedicated special teams coach, and I think it's fair to say that didn't necessarily work out as well. I'm always fascinated to see how these kind of dual coaching roles work out and what that'll mean for special teams. Because in my opinion, it's an area of the team that we haven't had a chance to capitalize on. And if we can get some winning plays there, I think it could definitely turn some games around for us.
Was it Matt Wright that told us they were pretty much on their own in practice 90% of the time?
Yeah, well, that was another split, right? Because that was, I think DeWitt was the linebackers coach and the special teams coordinator, Trace. I don't know if you remember that, but I think he was a defensive coach and he also had special teams. So, yeah, that essentially was the split back then as far as I recall it, Mike.
Coach O'Leary used to always talk about the hidden yardage. That is a huge part of the game. Like this coach was just telling us, if you win the field position battle 9 times out of 10, you win the game. It's not even getting touchdowns, which we haven't scored a kickoff touchdown since the Mike Hughes touchdown. But when was the last time we got kickoffs past the 50-yard line? We've had speed guys back there. We're talking about Killens and Otis and O'Keefe returning kicks. We never get past the 50 anymore. So that's something we need to do. Start flipping the field and covering kicks. The opening kickoff of the season against Georgia Tech, they almost took it back for a touchdown. I think we stopped them at the 10-yard line. So that's got to get cleaned up.
All right, Coach Blackman, clean that up, says Mike. But the Georgia Tech example notwithstanding, it's not like other teams have had a great deal of success. There have been rules changes with regards to kickoffs that just have changed the way we look at college football. There aren't as many of those electric returns as there used to be. The other part that's interesting is he spoke very highly of Jake Hescock and his decision to return. Be very curious. We've been talking about this. We expected to see the tight end utilized more in the Josh Heupel offense as he had utilized it at Missouri, but that was always sort of hit or miss. Be interesting to see how Coach Malzahn, Coach Blackman, how they approach the use of Jake Hescock in the offense.
There are so many unique weapons that are at the disposal of this offensive staff that it'll be really interesting to see how a different spin, a different slice of creativity can change an offense. Obviously, we know we can go fast. We know Dylan Gabriel has a strong arm, can throw it down the field. We know we have guys like O'Keefe who can take a 2-yard swing pass and go 93 yards for a touchdown. We've seen it happen. But there's so many creative weapons, so many guys who are matchup problems either because of speed or size. If Malzahn can tap into the way to leverage all of those guys and be multiple in that respect, but also not be multiple. I mean, I heard it's a big thing from somebody in Tennessee. If we can be multiple in that respect and not be as predictable, I mean, watch out for the offense, in my opinion.
There's that whole middle of the field we haven't used now in 3 years. That's where the tight ends make their money. That's where you go on 3rd and 7 when you need that first down. Big tight end over the middle. Let's see if we can actually use that part of the field now.
Are you excited for the start of spring camp? Do you feel a certain energy over these last couple of weeks? We had that lull period of time where everything was not going right for UCF athletics, and now it's been pretty exciting. I mean, there have been so many offers extended to players, and there's just been so much energy. I enjoy these interviews with the coaches, their personalities coming through. They seem to genuinely enjoy the conversation. And again, I know it's early. They haven't played a game. They haven't had to respond to more difficult questions, but there's certainly more personality than some of the assistant coaches on the previous staff. So I'm excited to talk more with these guys as spring camp gets underway on Monday.
And Chaz, I was trying to remember, and you might know better than us. Was this something that they did under either Heupel or Frost? I don't recall getting quote unquote meet and greets with the staff. Was that something that happened under the previous transitions that you recall?
I don't believe, it certainly wasn't in any sort of electronic format like Zoom, but remember the assistant coaches were made available on certain days of the week after practice during camp. So you'd see O-line coach or D-line coach or something like that. That's why the joke was always that you get Randy Shannon at the start of spring camp, you get him at the start of fall camp, and then maybe at the bowl. And we jokingly would say, over under of 5 minutes, how long would he talk? I mean, with David Gibbs last week, it was 15 minutes. So that was 3 Randys, So at least these guys have some more personality. I would imagine with UCF again not having released this, that it'll probably be more of this. So, come Monday, we'll probably see Coach Malzahn speak via Zoom following the first day of spring camp, which, we're not going to learn a whole lot. And without being able to see things, though interesting with this format, the StreamYard and the live stream, we may be able to show some of these video clips, pause them, like Zapruder film, and analyze.
Trace, I was going to say, this will be no good without the 5 minutes of guys stretching and throwing like 2-yard swing passes for us to break down for hours and hours on end. Mike and I have hours of show content to fill. What am I going to do without watching Quadri Jones float a 3-yard pass to Trillion Coles on the outside? I don't know how we're going to survive.
I want to hear from the players, and hearing from the coaches is good, but hearing from the players and how different the practices are from the hypo practices. Because we've talked to a few guys, those practices were moving at lightning speed. What are the differences now with Malzahn in here? He's got to do a lot of teaching, a lot of new plays.
Yeah, I would imagine we will get to talk with players as well, again, via the Zoom format. But it'll be interesting, and I don't know what we'll get to see. But, you think back a year ago to spring practice, and what were all eyes focused on? One Mackenzie Milton, right? We were looking to see him. What was he doing out on the field? Remember that piece of video of him strolling across the indoor practice field, the Nicholson field, and how that piece of video went viral. Fast forward a year, and he's making new videos at Florida State. And difficult to watch that, but look how many things have changed in the course of just 1 year. A lot of people in different places and a lot of new faces at UCF. Women's basketball cruising at the half, 36-15 over Houston. So it looks like they will have a rematch with the Cows on Thursday in the American Championship. UCF getting closer to moving itself off that bubble and perhaps making the NCAA tournament. As we go around the kingdom, Mike, you mentioned earlier that we're really a women's sports school, and softball's had a great deal more success than baseball. What a tremendous game on Monday. Number 22 UCF defeats number 2 Arizona 2-0. Teams just don't beat Arizona, and UCF took care of business at home. Very high profile win for UCF. Hope to see them advance in the standings this week. This is a pretty good team. Deep pitching staff, and they're fun to watch. Senior pitcher Gianna Macha, she was the AAC Pitcher of the Week. She had the complete game shutout. She with a team low ERA of 1.15, and she was pretty happy after the win on Monday.
Can't even put it into words. Like, that's just how fun we went out there. We had a plan and we stuck to it, and it worked in our favor, and we got a win.
Big smile there. A lot of happiness on the part of the softball team. And you like to see it. They are off to a good start, 13-3 now, and they've got FIU Thursday at home, at FAU Saturday and Sunday. Hey, Mike, you going to that? Are you going to make your way out there on the weekend? And then North Florida Wednesday. So you guys both have chances to watch softball in person in your respective areas of the state.
It's possible. I didn't even think about it until I saw the schedule a couple weeks ago, and then I kind of forgot about it. But now that I don't think I have any plans this weekend, maybe I can make a trip. It's not far. Let's see what the girls want to do.
Yeah, for me, so I wanted to go to the Wednesday game. Obviously, we did the show tonight, so I couldn't make that. The Saturday night game at UNF for baseball, I have plans for. So the softball game may work in my favor. But let me just throw a quick shameless admission here, Trace. And this is something, Mike, you might want to earmuff it for. This is a reason I love ESPN Plus, because I'm able to watch some of these games that, again, previously weren't as accessible to me. And so having ESPN Plus as an option, I find myself turning it on and just kind of searching and seeing what UCF game is playing. And even if you're not necessarily plugged into the schedule, with all the sports going on right now, there's usually somebody playing. And softball has definitely been entertaining. Shout out to Eric Lopez, who's been doing a lot of that play-by-play work. And so this is one reason, Mike, I know you wince to hear this, but ESPN Plus has actually been a bit of a godsend in my life here, being able to flip on and see maybe a team or a game that I hadn't really had a chance to see before. So please accept my apology.
When do we break out the Sons of UCF Plus? Now we're doing all these extra shows. We're doing this live show on Wednesday. Can we start getting in on this Plus game? I mean, people are getting this stuff for free.
What are we going to put on a plus channel, Mike?
This
Run me down the content schedule, and I'm open to it. Let me. This is Mike's bicep routine. Like, what are we going to have on the Sons of UCF Plus channel, Mike? Here's Mike training for a 5K. You know, you just have a GoPro and you running on the beach in a tank top or something, I guess.
I mean, we do a free podcast for everybody once a week. Now we're doing a free live show. We've done pre-game shows. You want me to do a training? Yeah, we can do a training thing. So there's plenty of opportunities, man. We just got to expand ourselves a little.
Trace, can we get a
plus coming soon?
Trace, can we get a live camera on the hammock? Maybe this is Trace taking an afternoon nap. I mean, we'll figure something out.
That's good stuff. You know, you do have a YouTube channel where things are archived, so there's content there. That's sort of Sons Plus. By the way, Mike, I have personally enjoyed your call for reviews, 5-star reviews and comments. I don't know if you've looked at the comments lately, but I have enjoyed the comments. Love that they brought on Trace to the team as well. You know, this is mere weeks after I was mentioned just laying on the couch with my feet propped up on the coffee table. So it's nice to see that people recognize. This is, I like this one, the best interviews, and Trace freaking Trelko. I like that one. That from Marky Dubs.
Trace, do you have a lot of cousins?
Yeah, how many usernames did you create to send in those reviews?
Get those 5-star reviews in. So the final from baseball, 10-0. UCF now 4-8. They host UNF on Friday. Adam will be skipping the game at UNF on Saturday. Back home for UNF on Sunday. I'm not saying that taking 3 out of 4 or all 4 necessarily rights the ship, but as our previous guest Brian Murphy said, that there's talent on this team, and we're not yet to conference play. So another kudos to you guys scoring another big interview. Brendan Hayes this week on Sons number 123. Did you guys enjoy that conversation? Learning a little bit behind the scenes with Brendan?
Yeah, I think, listen, my favorite interviews of the show, and I trust me, I love having the big name guys, the Marlins, the Trays, but I've always found that the guys who maybe you didn't know as well, who maybe didn't have a quote unquote starring role in the program, to be the most interesting guys, because I think their stories and their journeys are fantastic. And you think about Brendan Hayes, he literally saw it all. He went from winless in 15 to back-to-back undefeated seasons, regular seasons at least. Then he does the whole transition to the Heupel staff, has to live through that. Then he lives through kind of the 3-loss season, which for many people began the era pointing down. But I thought the most interesting thing, and the thing I like about these guys, is that, you know, as topics are coming up, you know, in real time, we can go back and ask them questions. So we talked a lot about the strength and conditioning program at UCF and the changes that he saw from Frost staff to Heupel staff. I know that's been a lot of conversation now. So if you haven't heard Brendan's answer and kind of the difference in what what Coach Schmidt and the previous conditioning staff were doing, check out the episode. It's available wherever you get your podcast. I think you'll find it interesting to hear the philosophy differences, and you can decide for yourself if you think that impacted the team and maybe some ability to make tough plays down the stretch.
I know the offense has gotten a lot of the praise over the last few years, how explosive they've been. But some of the biggest wins we've had are because of the defense. The Peach Bowl, the defense kept us in that game while we were floundering on offense for a half. And the defensive line, it all started there, getting pressure on Stidham, getting the sacks. Brendan Hayes was a huge part of that. He led the team in sacks. The game against Cincinnati, the college game day game, I said he had probably the best game of anybody that night. So he had a huge impact on this program. Very fun guy to talk to, like all the others.
As this hour draws to a close, I have 2 things I want to share with you guys. Number one, having listened to your show, episode number 123, I too am willing to give up a chance to win a hat with the best time on the Sons of UCF 5K team in the Alumni Association's 5K. So if I should get that top time, I'm going to give up my hat, as Mike has said that he would. So I just wanted to weigh in with that, let you guys know.
Did Mike say that? I know I said that. Did Mike actually commit to that? I don't know. Let's run the tape back on that.
Well, I told you, I won the college pick'ems that I had this season, and I gave up the hat. So second place winner. Hey, if you guys want to settle for second place and get a second place hat, I'm happy to give you one. That's fine. But I think you should have to earn it and beat me. And I'm sure somebody will. I think somebody will be able to beat my time. It's not going to be either one of you two. Adam, maybe.
No,
Trace definitely.
I got my knees have been really. I'm like you can count me out. My knees have been way too problematic. I think
No,
you got
you're
this thing in the
sandbagging.
back.
You're sandbagging me. I know you. I know your style.
Back.
You know, you seem to question my work ethic when it comes to preparing for this. Just because Britt saw me walking home after being at the park, and I pulled out the hammock. That was really for you. My nephew asked me, "How do you come up with these ideas every week?" And I'm like, "I listen to UCF Mike. He inspires. He's creative." Speaking of which, Mike, Adam, I hope you can bring this up. I want to show you guys. You know, there's this talk of the cardboard cutouts, which, by the way, it does seem to me that UCF may have been about a year late in launching this, but nonetheless, they have launched this program. And my good friend, your good friend, cost seg advisor, James, did a little Photoshop work today. He's got the photo that I'm turning in for my cardboard cutout. Mike, I'd like you to see it.
Right,
Huh?
you look like you're in great shape for this race. I take everything I said back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you may beat me. Look at the guns.
So that's what I'm turning in.
The rare
That's
double
what
hat,
it'll be.
too. By the way, the rare double hat. You don't see that a lot, Trace. It's an inspired look on your part, but I definitely can dig it for sure.
Is it
James
possible
is
we
the-
poke some holes out of the eyeballs and we can hide behind one of these cutouts and watch practices? Is that a possibility?
I quite enjoyed your speculation on where your cardboard cutout may be and what it may or may not get to see. And interesting that they haven't announced that you can have them at the spring game. I mean, it's not like they're going to have 45,000 people for the spring game, any spring game. So it would have been a good opportunity for some cardboard cutouts. But I am looking forward to turning that one in. I'm not sure where I'm going to have it, if at the practice field, at volleyball, maybe softball, but I'm ready for it. So that's my look. What do you think, Mike? You good?
Yeah. I mean, keep it somewhere where there's not too many women because you don't want to drive them too crazy with that picture. So maybe the football practice field is probably your best bet.
Well, it's good to see that in both formats, the podcast and in the live stream, that Mike's ego is very much contained, no matter the format. That's what's good to see.
Here's the funny thing: if you actually know Mike off media, I don't know what you call this. He's actually quiet. Like he very rarely talks. He's actually a pretty quiet person. It's only when the podcast comes on that you sort of get this side of Mike, which is entertaining.
The lights are on. I mean, what are we gonna do? Sit here and not say anything? That's part of the game, right?
We could try sitting
Entertaining
here
for
not
sure.
saying anything.
Get your
Sons of UCF
5-star
Plus
reviews.
Adam and Mike stare at each other for 2 hours. We could try that.
Marky Dubs with another one. Love these dudes. Love these dudes in reference to you guys and the good work that you do. Well, let's take.
Chris, I do want to quickly
suggestions on Sons Plus.
Eric Edwards has a suggestion. Instead of Peyton's Places, Trace's Terrain on UCF Plus or Sons of UCF Plus. So Trace's Terrains. You could, I don't know what that show looks like, but there's some synergy there. I like the idea, Eric.
Well, Sammy Kincaid playing hacky sack with the baseball players this week. So it's like, up in the game here, and then of course I just laid down on the job this week. Not at all.
Get some people to lay down in a hammock with you and do interviews that way. Two of you hanging out, cutting it up, swinging on a hammock, drinking a mimosa or something. What do you think?
That'll have to be pay-per-view content.
See,
that
you need a prop, Trace. You need a prop is what you need. I'm thinking Rubik's Cube for you. I don't know. I'm thinking you bring a bunch of Rubik's Cubes. You stand around with everybody. You guys are doing that thing while you're asking questions. Everybody needs a prop. You're a prop comic. Let's go Rubik's Cube.
A prop comic. We had the prop comic in earlier with Brian Murphy throwing his hat in a dramatic display. That's the kind of content you get on the Sons of UCF Live.
Yeah, if Cost Seg doesn't have that as a GIF by like 9:45, I'm gonna be really disappointed.
James, thank you very much for whipping that together on such short notice. Guys, it's been fun no matter the day of the week or the time that we're on. I enjoy the time we get to spend together in our little squares here in the live stream. So Women's basketball up 36-15 at the half. Baseball with success, 10-0 at North Florida. Men's basketball Thursday at 7 against ECU. Winner goes on to face Memphis. So hopefully you guys, when you record your show early in the week next week, will be able to talk about that deep tournament run for men's basketball. What do you expect, Adam, out of the men's basketball team as the tournament opens up on Thursday?
I don't know what to expect, Trace. I know I want good effort. Like, again, they've played some really good basketball. I think you've seen them sort of hit their stride. Just go out and play hard. I think they've got talent. They've got some, they got some ability. They have guys who can make shots. They can play some defense. They're long. They're athletic. Just go out and kind of let loose, really. I mean, again, this is a house money tournament. They've had ECU's number. And my hope is that Johnny Dawkins says, hey, you know what? Memphis, let's just call it what it is. They embarrassed us 2 straight games. Let's get back to that same spot and let's show them who we really are. And whether or not we can beat them, I don't really know. But I want to hear Dawkins get them motivated. I want to see the kids motivated for that. So give me a good effort, make some shots, have some fun. That's really what I'm invested in at this point. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. ESPNU, I'll be in front of my couch. I'll probably have a couple of cold ones. I'll be wearing a UCF shirt, and I want to be entertained. I want to have some fun. And hopefully UCF basketball can make that happen for me. If we win by 1, we lose by 1. I guess that'll be what it'll be, but let's have some good effort. Let's have some fun out there.
Yeah, don't embarrass us tomorrow night. Get past ECU, and then give us a game Friday night. It's a Friday 10 o'clock game. Keep us in it all the way to the end. Murphy said he doesn't expect us to keep it within 10 points. Give us a game. Give us a shot in the last couple of minutes to have a chance to win the game.
It'll be some late nights if women's basketball closes this one up 36-15. It's against the Cows, 10 o'clock ESPNU Thursday night, a late start coming on after men's basketball and ECU. And then, of course, ECU, UCF winner against Memphis Friday at 10. So a couple of late nights looking like for UCF fans. Guys, I've had fun. For Adam and Mike, I'm Trey Strolko. Sons of UCF Live. Go Knights!
Charge up.